Bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. Banks are going bust. We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller. All we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living room. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore! I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell! And I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hi, good evening everybody, it's Dave Matthews here again with Personal Navigation on the 30th of May. Just like to say if anybody has got anything to add or you want to Skype in, phone in with a question, participate, tell us your sort of stories, tell us what you've been trying, what you've been up to, you can call in on +44 161 298 0298 from outside the UK, and from inside the UK 0161 298 0298. So I guess I'll start. I know we've got Russ joining us a bit later to tell us a few things that he's been up to and success he's had with a claim. I think he got £1,000 or thereabouts from one of the police forces for something that they'd done to him. So we're looking forward to hearing his story. Matt's going to be joining us later. And I just want to start tonight by going back over what had been happening with Matthew's cases, just as a sort of an indication that what I'm trying to teach people really does work, if you provided you know how to sort of navigate the person in court. This particular case, he'd been in for driving whilst disqualified, and I believe he got, this was back a good while ago, but he got a community service order, which he just flatly refused. He rang them up the next day because he got to talk. He was talking to me then after he got this, because, you know, he actually employed a solicitor on the day, or hired a solicitor, or whatever you want to call it. And they gave him 12 months community service. And I said, well, I'll ring the guy up and just tell him you're not going to come and do it. So, because he was due to see the probation officer there the next day after the court hearing. So I rang him up and I sort of said he wouldn't be coming and such like. And this went on for, I don't know, a bit of arguing back and forth with letters and one thing and another. It went on for about a year, and then they issued a warrant for his arrest. So eventually he went into court, and he basically, you know, stood his ground. He'd learnt enough, and they just kept adjourning. We went through stages where the magistrate would shout and scream and bawl and, you know, bang his chest and cry and all of that sort of stuff. And it seemed to be that the magistrates always seemed to be more aggressive or more shouty and cryy when there was, you know, maybe 6 or 7 of us in the courtroom as opposed to 1 or 2 of us. So I guess they only really do that to try and stop there being proof, you know, of the stuff that we do working. So anyway, it went on, and then they kept adjourning again, and at that point, they said that they were going to go to a hearing in this particular case. There'd been others which had taken a similar sort of a route. But in any case, they decided that they would have a hearing. And he said, well, you know, he flatly said, well, I don't consent to that. I still, you know, I'm here by way of special appearance, which he'd already said anyway. And, you know, for those of you who are new to this, obviously the special appearance questions the jurisdiction that they have on you in the first instance. So, you know, he'd said all that, and they sort of wanted to continue to a hearing. So he said, I'll be here, but I'm only coming because I feel threatened and intimidated, and I know that you'll, you know, lock me in the back of a van or whatever and drag me in here anyway. So he said, I will come, but I don't consent to it. So people who heard the show last week may have heard me sort of saying what had happened. He went into the courtroom. Before we went in, there was 2 police. One was a uniformed Sergeant Davies of Cumbrian Police 882, and another PC Watkins, who was quite possibly the stupidest policeman I've ever spoken to. But the Sergeant Davies was quite pleasant, if ignorant, quite pleasant. So we went in and did the usual thing, and they come unglued, you know, started shouting at him. He wouldn't go into the dock or the little box that they wanted him to go in behind the glass. He said, no, I'm okay where I am, thank you. I'm here by way of special appearance, and I'm a non-resident, non-citizen of the UK. And they just kept screaming at him, are you Matthew, you know, I won't say his full name, but are you Matthew, blah, blah, blah. Well, Craig Nicholas or whatever, date of birth. And he just said, well, I'm Matt, and I'm here to deal with this matter. So then they used a tactic which I hadn't seen before. I'd heard of it, but I hadn't seen it, and I wasn't prepared for it. And they sort of, I couldn't really do anything anyway because they would have just chucked me out. They said, right, okay, then if you're not going to agree to be Matthew Craig Nicholas, date of birth, blah blah blah, we're going to proceed in your absence as if you weren't here. And she actually said at that point, if you go and sit at the back of the court, we'll proceed in your absence. So kind of we missed that a little bit. It took my son actually to point that out to me, that she made him an offer. You know, if you do that, we will do this. So he kind of shouldn't have moved really, but you know, you learn by your mistakes and stuff. And I think that's why it's good when they throw new things in that people don't expect. So anyway, as this was going on, I could sort of, I thought that they were going to just issue a warrant for his arrest and then drag him into the cell and keep him there and then bring him back up and that whole 9 yards. And so I asked the police that were there. First of all, I pointed out that he was in the courtroom and they were just shaking their heads, and trying to shush me because we were in a courtroom and we should be respectful and all that crap. And they just wouldn't acknowledge that he was in the building. But I said, is he free to leave? And they said, yes, he's free to leave. So I got Matt out of there as quickly as possible. When he went down to the car park, I came back up then and I called the police out of the court and had a chat with them, and then it went on anyway through the afternoon. I went back up to the police station and had a good chat with them. And I'd been back into the courtroom in the meantime, and they said that a warrant had been issued for Matthew Nicholas's arrest. So I went back down to the police station and said that, and asked would they have arrested him there and then, and they said yes, they would have in the courtroom. So I said, well, you're obviously happy enough that he was Matthew Nicholas if you would have been prepared to arrest him. And they said, oh, they had reasonable suspicion that he was Matthew Nicholas. So, there's another demonstration of one rule for one rule for another. So I was kind of a bit glum last week, and I'm sure you probably remember me talking about that before when I came on the show. I was feeling, pretty low about that because it's should have been more prepared, really. And then I was talking with Russ, and Russ pointed out, this was on the Saturday, Russ pointed out that, one of the classic Dean Clifford quick thinking things was that they'd made a legal determination in the courtroom in front of witnesses that Matt was not the man they were looking for. So it's like, bingo, yeah, I remembered that, and I should have remembered it, but that's why it's good for us all to come together and do these things. So we put some notices on to the police, just in case, typed out notices and 2 affidavits, one for me, one for my son. Just, plain and simple, which I covered last week. Then from there, he'd been ringing the police in Newport every single day. Is there a warrant? Because he wanted to go in first thing in the morning, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning, so that he could catch the delightful G.O. Amy van up to the Cumbran court where, they drag him in or whatever. So, and basically I told him, if this happens, just stand your ground, make sure you let me know where you are, where you're going to be going, and I'll make sure I'm there as soon as you come into the building. I'll make sure, I'm in whichever courtroom they bring you into, but just whatever you do, stand your ground. So by the sort of middle to end of last week, we were kind of thinking, well, there's still no warrant, and I know we discussed it on there, and Prajna was saying a few things about it, and Lee and a few others. And as from last Friday, we made a phone call to Matthew, got hold of the warrant administrator's phone number, got through to her, and asked then if a warrant had been issued, and she needed to do some check-in, and then she came, she went to her supervisor. Then we've got a phone call then recorded of Matthew speaking to her and her confirming that no warrant has been issued and no warrant would be issued. She went on to say during the phone call that if a warrant did ever get issued, that it would be a breach warrant for community service. But she said, then she went on to say that would not be handled by the police. It was not a police matter, therefore not a criminal matter. And what happened from there, she went on to say, that he asked who would be covering the warrant, and she said that it was a private firm, not involved. He specifically asked, was it an employee of Her Majesty's Courts Tribunal Service? They said no, it's a separate entity to that. And he said, well, are you saying it's a separate company? Is it a company that would deal with it? And she said yes. So we've got that all recorded. My bad, because I wanted to play it tonight, but I haven't. Yeah, I don't know how far I got there, but I was just saying I'm hoping to get that recording up to Paul or Prajna or Sudama to maybe let us play it on next week's show. And so that's just basically an update of what's been happening down here. I will go over some other stuff about, some things you can use. I guess I could do it now, and then if Russ is happy to wait a bit to tell us what he's been up to this week and such like, and you happy to wait there for a bit, Russ, if I go on with some of the ideas to, if you get hauled into a police station?
No problem.
Okay, no problems. Yeah. Like one thing I not sure whether I think I have vaguely covered it in a previous show there, but if you get, with the person and the capacity of the person and what capacity you're operating in, always if you're pulled over by the police or they try and serve a public order or anything like that, on the streets, in a car, whatever they try and serve on you, do your level best not to accept the paperwork in any case. But whatever you do, if you sign any paperwork, always put on the paperwork what capacity you're signing it in, and always put on there, at the time of this complaint, I was not performing a function of government or acting as an agent of the Crown. Because at that point you line up like a civil claim. You line the police up for a civil claim, because if the police fabricate evidence that if they claim that you are operating in that capacity, and you've told them right there and then that you weren't operating in that capacity, they are fabricating evidence. So you line them up for a civil claim. At the very least, if you don't succeed in the civil claim, you give them a very hard time and a very uneasy couple of months. You could take that as far as you could take that to IPCC just purely for funsies, and just have fun with it. Say that they're claiming that you are this corporate officer. They spelt your name in all capital letters, even though you've already told them that you weren't acting in that capacity at the time that they, stopped you, approached you in the street, all of that type of stuff. So, and don't be afraid to file a civil claim. Don't be afraid to make complaints against them, because it does throw a spanner in the works for them, and they will think twice if people stand up to them and do these things. I don't mean you don't need to be belligerent with them. You don't need to be sort of excessively rude to them, but making them look stupid's okay, I guess. But always qualify your signature and always get it down in writing. Don't be afraid to write, right across the paperwork. I've only signed this because I feel physically threatened. Don't be afraid to put that down. And I know they held a friend of mine, Sean, they held him, he was in Cardiff, and this is a prime example of how this stuff works. He was in Cardiff and he saw some guy getting a kick in, as we've all seen the videos. So he tried to step in to help the guy, but basically he went up, he approached the sergeant, he said, look, is this level of force really necessary? He's not resisting. Is it really necessary for, 8 or 9 officers to be jumping on him and kicking him? And they just turned straight on Sean then and threw him in the back of the van. I know we always laugh at Sean because he does get himself into some awkward situations, but they ended up him literally just questioning the police as to whether there were the level of force was necessary, to being hauled into the police station. He was kept there practically overnight, and they kept trying to get him to sign this paperwork. You sign this paperwork, you can go. If you sign this, public order offence, you can go. And he was, well, I haven't done anything wrong. He said, I'm not signing any of your paperwork. And they said, well, if you don't, we're going to keep you here. And he just said, well, okay. He said, keep me here, but I'm not signing it. He said, the only way I will sign that is if you let me put on there I've been physically threatened. So they would give him the paperwork, he'd start writing on there, I'm only signing this paperwork because I feel physically threatened, and they take it off him, and then they bring another bit of paper, and they'd expect a different outcome, and I think we've probably discussed that before, is stupidity is doing the same thing time and time again and expecting a different outcome. But he stuck to his guns, he didn't let them intimidate him. You know that these people won't hold you forever, and eventually he left the police station, albeit it had taken nearly all night, but he left the police station with no charges against him, no public order, no fine to pay that the bailiffs would come and enforce and all that bullshit. He just stuck to his guns. He just stuck to his guns and would not sign the paperwork. And that's a prime example of what you must start trying to do, because you can bet that if he came across the same, police officers again, and they would think twice before hauling him down the station and trying to threaten him into signing this paperwork, because they knew the last time that the fear tactics didn't work, and they didn't get anywhere with him. So I don't know if do you want to come in and say anything about things like that, Russ, at all? Any of your experiences with things like that? Russ, are you there? No, he mustn't. Breaking up a lot there, Russ. Can't hear you. Would it be advisable for him to phone back in, Paul?
Yeah, I'll drop you from the call, Russ, and I'll call you back. That might make it a little bit easier.
Yep, and I'll just continue on for a bit there while we do that. So, yeah, like the paperwork aspect, I think a classic that Matt's done, and he's been threatened a lot of times, with being thrown in the cell or whatever. He just writes "fuck off" in the box, which is, it's probably not the nicest thing that you could write. But like just draw a flat line or something through but always get on the paperwork if you can that you feel threatened. Do not sign a digital block. Just do not sign it. Just say you want an original piece of paper to sign, so that you can qualify who you are, what you're there as. Always get it on any recording. Any time they interview you, always start the recording off by saying, I just want to make you aware that at the time of this complaint, now, whenever, I never, ever, ever act as an agent of the government, and I never act as an agent of the Crown, and I don't ever plan on doing so. Get that on any recording, because then you don't only line yourself up for a civil claim against the police, you line yourself up, for a civil claim against the Crown who are bringing the complaint, and they will think twice. With me, when I've done that, they've not even spelt my name in all capitals. Or the second name in the corporate identity. They start off by doing a postal requisition, which is totally different to what they normally do. So it does have an effect. So make sure you qualify. Make sure you get it down on tape. Make sure you get it down on paper. And Russ, I don't know if we can hear you any better now.
Unfortunately, we have called him back in, but he's dropped from the call. I do think Prajna wants to get in there though with you, Dave.
Yeah, go on, Prajna. Yep.
I picked up on the word requisition, and I've received a requisition before. So I looked in. I mean, this blew my mind. It looked to me like a summary, but actually it claimed to be a requisition, and I summons rather, and so I looked into what a requisition is, and courts can issue a summons. But things like DVLA and all these other authorities and so on can't issue a summons. They have to lay an information to a court, and the court then issues a summons if it thinks it's appropriate. But what they can do, since the government has devolved a great number of powers to everyone from your postman to your electricity man and so on, is now all these organizations can issue their own summons, and it's not a summons, it's called a requisition. Does that clear things up, or does that muddy things further?
No, I think the requisition thing was something I had never seen before, and on the actual slip, I wrote at the bottom of the slip that at the time of the complaint I was not performing I can't remember the exact wording, but not performing a function of government or acting as an agent of the Crown. It was what I think I put on there, and then signed it as the authorised representative, I believe. And I actually told the police, the officer who pulled me over, that I would not be producing any documents. At the time that happened, I did have a trader's policy. Why I got so pissed off about it was because he claimed that the car didn't have an MOT, and at the time it actually did, which was surprising for me. But that car actually did have an MOT, and he pulled me over on the sort of saying that it had flashed up that it didn't have an MOT, and I was doing like 30 mile an hour in a country lane. Well, not a two-way lane. That had a 65 mile an hour speed limit, and I just thought, like, you idiot, what's the matter with you? So I made it quite clear to him there and then that I wouldn't be producing paperwork. I made it clear to him, that I wasn't using my license at the time, and I made it clear to him that if he claimed I was, that I would file a civil claim against him for fabricating evidence. And then I got this thing, it was a long, probably 6 months past till I heard something from it, and I just thought that they'd just gone, oh, better leave this one alone. And then I got a postal requisition for that particular one, where the name was not spelt. It was spelt as it should be spelt, and not in the the corporate officer identification or corporate ID or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't spelt that way. So I'd never seen anything like that. So that was a first for me, really. So we're gonna. I think that's still ongoing. I think we're in Stroud Court on the 17th of June for anybody that wants to come along. Fun day trip out. Fun road trip to Stroud Court, 17th of June. Everybody's welcome. Come in and have a bit of a laugh, and we'll play a few games with them. So there we go. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in at the moment, or Prajna wants to add.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it is a summons. It's just that it's not issued by the court. It's issued under this development of power to local authorities. If you have a look at it, it's got all the same threats on it, that a summons has. If you don't attend, I mean, it doesn't look like the invitation, which actually is. But there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, I think the Crown who were in, or the claimed crowd, the guy that was there was, because I kept shouting at him saying, Crown's refusing to speak. Crown, what's your position? Crown's refusing to speak, and I kept getting on the record that he was refusing to speak and such like, and his head was going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, and they were like, oh no, well he's nothing to do with this. And I said, well what's he doing in here then? He's the Crown. Well, he hadn't got any paperwork for you. And I said, well, what am I doing here? I said, you requested that I come here, or whatever you call it. Nobody's got any paperwork. What am I doing here? And it was just funny. It was just really funny. I really enjoyed it because they were nearly crying. And that's one of the ones where the guy, I think somebody started telling me a story about when they were required to carry ID and insurance in their car and blah. And I said, well, that's great, but we're not here to talk about you. We're here to talk about me. But it's and I would say as well, the Ministry of Justice rules state that only a court can issue a summons. So is that perhaps why they're calling them requisitions? If it's sort of one of these splinter companies or whatever you call it, maybe that's what it is, Prajna?
Yeah. In fact, there is information on the net about it. I can't remember exactly where I found it, but they passed new legislation, and this, as I said prior to that, the only way you could get someone in court was to issue a summons, and still no agency apart from a court can issue a summons.
Yeah, and that's Ministry of Justice rules, isn't it? But I suppose because of the way that they word, because of the way that they word the requisition, they are making you. I suppose it's UCC again. They're making you an offer whereby they're saying you don't have to come, but if you don't come, we can do this. And I suppose that's similar to Paul's. If you use my name, I've told you that it's copyrighted, and I'm going to charge you for it. So they're making, I suppose, with the requisition, they're making an offer. You then you acquiesce, or you just agree by not going, and you let them issue whatever fine they decide that they're going to issue with. So again, I think you've always got to try and turn up and just deal with it, there and then, really, without sort of writing letters back and forth and such like. But that was a very interesting one, and the requisition was something I hadn't seen. I don't know if anybody else is on the call has seen a requisition or heard of it, or what. If you want to add a bit more to that, Prajna.
Not particularly. I mean, your way is set up in court, and it is wonderful in court. When you confront them with normal common sense, like, what's he doing here if he's got no paperwork and no into the case? There is a great deal of fun to be had at that. equally, the way that I play it is, unless there's something I want to get from the court, like the last time I was in court, it was because I wanted to defend the charges because I was then going to turn around, as I'm in the process of doing, and sue the living shit out of a whole lot of agencies, and certainly sue them for false arrest, unlawful imprisonment, assault causing actual bodily harm, and a whole lot of other things.
Yeah.
So it was important that I went in and actually defended the charges stated, and I did that with the solicitor and so on. But what I do for all the other stuff, traffic tickets, parking tickets, anything like that, I just totally ignore them. That's their game. That's their problem. If they want to play it, they can play it. If they want to come and pick me up and drag me into court one day, then I'll deal with it then. Otherwise, it's nothing to do with me. They've got a criminal system, completely lawless and criminal. How can they impose anything on me until they get their own shit sorted out? And that's my attitude, and it's meant that I've spent very little time in court at all. And when we come to it, then I shall be arguing those points forcefully in court. But I won't go to their court. They'll have to come and drag me, and if they come and drag me, they always break their own rules in the process. Like when they came and arrested me for non-payment of fines in order to get me off our campsite so they could evict us. Well, they didn't want me around telling them what the law was when they came to evict us, so they came along in the morning and arrested me for non-payment of fines. Well, actually, there has to be a court case before you can arrest someone for non-payment of fines. And so, of course, they're going to find that they've broken all the rules in the process. Again, I'll get off scot-free with a whole lot of compensation at the end of it. So, that's my own personal way of doing it. You have to put up with convenience of spending, I did 2 or 3 days in Nick, but that all goes with the territory of being a rebel, I believe.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that that's what we need is less fear, because you're only at the end of the day, if you're in there for 2 or 3 days, you're not gonna starve, you're not gonna freeze to death. You're just in a room, and it might be. Maybe it might give you some good thinking time to think up, some new remedies, or,
Dave, I had a fabulous time. I was a hero before I even arrived in the place. This is when they nicked me for non-payment of fines, because first of all, when they got me to the court, I wouldn't cooperate in any way. So they. I'd been put in handcuffs that were done up tortuously tight. Because I wasn't cooperating, they just put me in a cell, complete with handcuffs still on, and left me in there all morning. Well, that's torture under all the
unusual punishment.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is an acknowledged form. If you look in Safer Custody, which is a publication put out by the Association of Chief Police Officers, it specifies in there that will make them liable for charges of torture. And so I wouldn't cooperate in any way. Eventually they came and asked me if I wanted to see a solicitor. I said I'm not doing anything until I see a doctor. Not being a court rather than a police station meant there had no medical people there, and their only choice was to cart me off to casualty. And so they couldn't get me to do anything until they'd done that. They took me off to casualty. So of course I've got all that documented by the local casualty unit as well. And then they took me back to court, and eventually they said, well, the judge will see you now. I said, I'm not seeing anybody without my hat. I never go anywhere in public without my hat. And they said, nobody wears a hat in court. And I said, I always wear a hat in court, and I'm not going into court unless I do. And they said, well, you won't be able to speak on your own behalf, and not only that, you won't even hear what the result of the case is. And I said, I don't give a fuck. I'm not complying. You know, you people have treated me, tortured me, done all these things. Why would I comply with you in any way? It's an absolute criminal system. And so they then left me in the court cell for the rest of the day, and eventually they bundled me into one of their prisoner transport things, carted me off to Old Course Prison. And it wasn't even until I got to Old Course Prison that I found out where I was going, how long I was likely to be there or anything. Well, they'd given me 5 days, or 7 days they'd given me. But it was just coming up to a weekend, and they don't hold, you know, you get a half your time in remission anyway, and so it worked out. I spent two nights in there. Well, when I arrived there was a regular con who'd been in the court cells as well, and he heard me kicking off and said, you know, that I'd told the judge to go fuck himself and all that kind of thing. So I was a hero by the time I got to Old Course, and not only that, people in the background knew people who were on the inside and said, you know, watch his back and all that kind of thing. Well, I had a fantastic time in there. I met lots of people. I had a ball. I explained to them all kinds of things, and it was really fabulous. It was nothing to be feared at all. The only inconvenience really is that they force you to compromise yourself for anything. If you need a phone card, they say, right, you've got list the names on your application of all the people that you're going to phone. Well, I wanted to put Carly down on there because I was going to phone Carly for sure. What's her name? Carly. You can't have just one name. It has to be two names. Well, she's only called Carly. You know, well, you're not going to get the phone card, and let's have another name. Let's just call her Mary Smith, shall we? So to do anything, you've got to lie, you've got to compromise, and that kind of thing. But it was a great experience. I loved it. You know, I had a good time, and here I am feeling happy about it. So don't be afraid of anything.
No, I quite agree, and people, like I keep saying over and over again, just enjoy yourself, have fun, like enjoy throwing spanners in the work, enjoy asking awkward questions in the courtroom. Whenever you're in the courtroom, don't accept anything as fact. Ask them to prove it up. You know, if you don't stand up to the system, we're never going to sort of, I don't know, we're just gonna keep rolling over and taking what they throw at us. But one of the things I think we were talking last night on Darkcity Radio, I think people are going off too much at the moment, chasing pots of gold, and you know they're worried about this conspiracy or that conspiracy, and I do believe that the government definitely put stuff out there to distract us. They put things out there that are, you know, either misleading or they put stuff out there that's so blatantly obvious that we're all going to be running around trying to, you know, getting angry about this or that or the other, and instead of coming together and forming something better, for example, like Iceland has done, then we're going to just spend our time. And I think we were saying there last night that a lot of the reason for that is when we tell people about, you know, the Crown, the corporation, and the corporate identity and the birth certificate, number one, even your own family look at you like as if you know, just came down in a spaceship. They disbelieve it. They look, and all you want to do is you want to prove it up. You want to give them this proof, this definitive proof that this is what's going on, you know. So you just go down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and it just consumes your life. You know, we've got to, as a I don't know what you'd call it, as a nation or whatever, we've got to unite in building something better. Don't worry, you're never going to beat the powers that be. You're not gonna beat them. You're not gonna like win a war against them. They've got guns. They've got prisons, they've got everything you could name, and they've got, you know, the media as a tool. You've got to stop giving the system energy. And, you know, like the council tax, which I want to touch on again, and somebody was mentioning in the news a court thing that they'd been doing lately, but I just want to say, you know, if we just went for 2 weeks without giving the system energy, not even actively retaliating against something, just literally not signing papers, not giving money to them, they can't lock, you know, millions and millions of people up. They can't do it. Just try and focus, instead of focusing on running down rabbit holes and proving to your family that what you're saying is correct, and, you know, just concentrate on something better. Walk, you know, don't sit there pissing and whinging about the bank. Don't sit there pissing and whinging about tax. Do something about it. Get a job. Do something for yourself where you don't have to pay income tax and fill forms out. If you're not happy paying, you know, pay as you earn tax, don't work for somebody. Work for yourself. Create something of your own. Don't have a bank account. Or if you do have a bank account, don't give them your national insurance number. You can manage without these things. These things they're all there. It's like an automatic world, you know. We can even press a button on a computer screen now and shopping arrives at our door. It's laziness, and that's what we've got to try and get out of. People, don't expect somebody to learn this stuff for you. Don't expect somebody to go to court for you and fight your corner, or some special phrase, some sort of magic one-liner that people say, you know. People aren't going to do it for you. The only people that can act, I'm on a rant now, the only people that can act is yourselves. Don't wait for other people. All I can do is tell you about our experiences. I can tell you about the capacity of the person. I can tell you for absolute sure that it works. And it works every time I've seen it. It works. 100% it works. So I think Prajan just wanted to jump in there a second as well. Go on.
Yeah, just to add to what you were saying, the way we do it is we say to ourselves, what's the worst that could happen? If I don't pay tax on the van, what's the worst that could happen? Well, they could take it off the road, unlawfully, but they could do it. Yeah? Am I prepared to do that in order to have freedom? Too damn right I am. Yeah? What is the worst that could happen? They could stick me in prison for a while. Well, do you know, when I go into prison, then I'm a political prisoner. Yeah, I think that's a damn worthy thing to be. Well, whatever the worst that can happen is, if you look at it and say, what's the worst that can happen? Am I prepared to do that for this thing? Now, what is it that we're doing it for? We want freedom from a situation where we're oppressed, where everything that we do is taxed, everything that we do, all our existential needs are charged for. So really we have no choice but to do what we're told. Otherwise we don't get food, shelter, clothing, and so on. Is it, you know, what am I prepared to give up to try and achieve that kind of thing? And the thing is, I'm prepared to give up anything. I don't care. They can put me in prison for as long as they like, because whatever they do to me, I will turn it into something beneficial. If they stick me in prison, I'll teach a whole lot of other people how to rebel. Once everybody in prison knows about peaceful non-compliance, how the fuck are they going to run a prison when nobody's complying with them? It doesn't matter what they do to me, it will blow up in their faces. If they come and unlawfully arrest me in order to get me off the site so they can evict us, they commit a whole lot of crimes which then they can hold them accountable for. And eventually they won't be able to do anything lawfully because every time they do something, they cock it up, and we end up being the winners. Okay, we have to, you know, we lose a few things in the process. We spend a great deal of time doing it. But for us, it's absolutely critical that it changes, and it's not going to change until people are absolutely determined to change it. But they have to be prepared to lose. You're losing anyway. These people are fleecing you. At least 75% of your energy is spent either on filling out paperwork, or paying them taxes, or kowtowing to them, or not doing this, or doing something else. all the time you're being taxed and sucked dry by these people. And the thing is that we are drained a lot less by the system than all of those crazy taxpayers out there. This is the crazy thing. Even spending a couple of days in prison, even suffering with cracked ribs for 2 or 3 weeks. That's nothing compared to the energy that other people put into it. Just means I have to be a little bit more careful rolling around for a couple of weeks, and then it all comes right again. So that's the position that we take. And okay, it's a bit more extreme. It appears more extreme. But actually, when you tot up all the time you spend working for violent war criminals, I don't think it's that extreme at all. And that's my little bit of ranting. There you go, Dave.
No, and it's brilliant. Like, imagine if tomorrow everybody decided to be like, us on this show, or take exactly the stand that, Prarsden has taken there. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, really, what are they going to do? And I was just, the pissing and whinging, fuel duty is really expensive. I piss and whinge about fuel duty, but I don't pay it. I use red diesel. Or, I drive around in at the moment we've got a 65 quid Nissan Micra. But if you go out and buy a £20,000 BMW, you're not gonna have fun with when it gets taken off you. Like if a officer took my 65 quid Nissan Micra off me, I'd laugh at him. Good luck with it. You don't buy like these things. You don't need all of this crap. You don't need a £20,000 car. You don't you can buy a car for like 100 or 300 quid that does the job perfectly well. And I'm sure that most of us on the call would agree with that, and probably have not got a £20,000 BMW or £20,000 Ford Focus or whatever. But you can manage perfectly well without crap, that, and like I say, you're going to pay a big insurance premium on that. You're going to drive a £20,000 BMW like the biggest idiot under the sun because somebody's there to pick up the pieces when you smash it into somebody else with a £20,000 Audi. Stop pissing and whinging about it. Do something about it for yourself. Don't whinge, just act. That's what you've got to do, and don't be afraid. We were talking about bits of paper last night. Bits of paper are so scary. You get letters from the court, the court need. I've been ordered to go to court. Well, you've been sent a piece of paper with words on it. You spend your life chasing around bits of paper that you can spend. They're just bits of paper. Get it in your head. That. Like Prajan said, what is the very worst that can happen? They'll feed you, they'll keep you warm, they'll keep you clothed, they're not going to kill you. They do in some cases, but that's pretty unusual. But they're not going to kill you. Like, there's never been a better time to stand up for our rights. We've got, you've got your rights there. Like we hear about the cannabis stuff. I mean, if farmers countrywide just started growing hemp, what would they'd spend their life chasing around after it. It's just people in their masses need to sort of wake up, smell the coffee, and just do something about it instead of whinging or waiting for some definitive proof that this magic sentence just worked. Look, I can prove it. I've been down all these rabbit holes, and now I've got some proof. And then all of a sudden, I don't believe you anyway. We just got to stop. I don't know if Russ has just come back on. I don't know if we can hear you now. I know you got trouble with your dongle.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now, yeah.
Right, good. Right, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think a lot of truth has been spoken, but I don't agree with Brighton about prison. Well, I think, if you show sympathy, then down to prison, you're going in the wrong direction. And I remember a school teacher of mine at a very young age said to me, if you carry on like you are, you're going to prison. I thought, you don't know, you're talking to, do you? I'm far too clever for that. And I think, to stay out of prison is the main aim of the game whilst you're doing whatever it is you want to do, in whatever way you want to.
You've broken up again, Russ. We can't hear you.
I've experienced what it's been for me. I was in
Russ is breaking up really bad. I can't hear him now. He's dropped off again, Russ. I don't know. Have you got a landline? Could we call him on a landline, Paul?
Yeah, we can do that if he puts it in. We can do that for him.
Have you got a landline we can call you back on, Russ? Or we can't call him mobile? Can we call a mobile, Paul, or not? Or is that...
No,
you can't do that?
Do a mobile from here, but I can do any landlines. I can do mobiles in America and Canada. But we live in rip-off Britain, Dave. So
no, I don't believe that. I need proof.
All right. Unfortunately, I have to pay for mobiles because it costs more here than it does all around the world. Is that enough proof? Is that admissible? Is that admissible as everything?
But yeah, Russ, I'm gutted because I know you've got some really, really good stories. You've had some good success lately. But did Prajna, do you want to jump in there before we go to a break?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is that Russ can call in on his mobile, even if we can't call out to him. The other one is that this thing of if you fear going to prison, that's what they'll use to control you with. Whatever you hold on to is whatever they're going to use to control you with. And this is why your big BMW is such a liability, because you're going to hold on to that an awful lot more tightly than a Nissan Micra, 90 quid Nissan Micra. If you lose that, you've lost 90 quid, big deal. So they can't get much of a grip on you that way. Whatever you've got, if you hold on to it tightly, you can be sure that's what they're going to attack you on. Whatever they see, you've got to lose. That's what they're going to try and grab hold of and start to control you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't even make BMWs with signals or indicators.
You're definitely back now, Russ, because we can hear you typing, brother.
Yeah, go on. See if you're breaking up now, Russ.
No, you're still typing, Russ. You need to talk. No, you're still typing.
Talk.
It's not Skype tonight, Dave.
No, never mind. Well, maybe we can set something up better for next week for us then. And I don't know if Barry's on the call. Does Barry want to speak? Have you been doing any standing up or?
We have got Nigel here.
Oh, okay, yeah, go on.
Regarding the cases on the poll tax.
Yeah, well, we got how long have we got to break now?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So maybe we'll start with the council tax when we come back after the break now. So if Barry'd like to say a few things, maybe.
Sure, after the break, guys. I got a few comments to make, but
no, go on. Go. We've got 3 minutes. So tell us, have you been in court? Have you been standing up to any police or RCMP over there? Come on, we're glad if you're in.
No, but adding on to what you said earlier, Dave, I'm really making a mental point of getting off their websites and their screen and everything about the government as much as possible, and I can do that by just simply reducing my income here. It really takes you off their radar screens. I'm going to get rid of my GST number, which is a real way for them to track everything you're doing here. And after my income tax is submitted next year, I will be able to drop my income or my GST. And so that's something everybody's trying to do here, because the government is just sticking it up our butts, buddy, everywhere we turn, and we're all sick of it. The same stuff is going on over here, but not quite to the extent that I hear it going on over in your country. So we're all facing the same kind of bullshit.
Barry, can't you just register yourself as a business outside your country, and then you only pay tax to the country that the business is registered in?
It's funny you mentioned that. I really, honestly, I haven't really looked into it, but somebody else, a buddy of mine, Doug Ritchie, was talking to me about that the other day, and he's a businessman here, and he was mentioning that to me. So I haven't looked into it, bud, but I'd like to look into it a little bit more.
Barry, also, just to add as well, wasn't there a woman called Lovey Critch who had proof that the Canada Act was the Canada Income Tax Act was never actually enacted? Look her up. She's called Lovey Critch.
No, that is true. That's true. In the World War II, the government implemented income tax as a War Measures Act, and it has never officially been put into law in Canada. There's a huge in Calgary right now. Actually, I was talking to what's his name?
Are we on break?
I was talking. I was talking to a buddy the other day, and there's a huge challenge going on right now in the courts in Calgary right now about this same issue that you just brought up. So it actually has never been put into law, and it's illegal in Canada. So.
Oh wow, we're going to break in 30 seconds, Barry. So if we can just talk for a bit longer when we come back after the break, and then we'll get on to the council tax and how we can fight the council tax and have some fun with that as well. So, brilliant.
I always love talking with you, Dave. Always.
Good. All right, we'll speak in a bit.
Yeah. The sound of Darkcity Radio. When you hear the sound, when you hear the sound, when you hear the sound, when you hear the sound of Darkcity Radio, you know what to do. You and your family must take cover immediately. The initial flash from the explosion can burn the skin and cause blindness. The Prime Minister, speaking a few moments ago in the House of Commons, has warned that the international situation is deteriorating rapidly and that the truth could break out any time in the next 2 or 3 days. When you hear the sound of Darkcity Radio, you know what to do. You and your family must take cover immediately. Lie down. Keep away from wind hose. Cover your head and eyes. Do not look at the sky. Take shelter immediately. Repeat. Stay indoors. Do not leave your home. Take shelter immediately. When you hear the sound,
When you hear the sound, you know what to do. You and your family must take cover immediately. Duck and cover. Duck and cover. The initial flash from the explosion can burn to skin and ice.
Hi, it's Dave Matthews back again after the break. Well, I believe we still got Barry with us. We were just speaking to Barry about the sort of income tax and Lovey Critch and a few other things like that. But Barry, you mentioned a certain, is it a GMT or what
GST.
number was that? GST. What is that
GST
exactly? Just explain for people that don't know. Can you just...
Okay. It's a registration number they came up with about 15, I guess it's about 18 years ago. For anybody in the country that's generating over $32,000 a year, you have to register for a GST number. It's goods and services tax, exactly. And what it basically is just a way for them to cross-reference you and reference you and make it almost impossible for loopholes where, you know, people were avoiding declaring income in the past. They basically closed those loopholes. So what I've done now is I'm going to make sure that my income is below that, and I submit it to the government here in the spring, and at the same time I'll apply to have my GST number erased. And once you get it below a certain point, they cannot force you to continue with the GST number. And that's what I'm going to do, because I'll be quite honest, you know, I've got into doing mushrooms and these chagas, and there's all kinds of opportunities that, you know, I am lucky that I live in this country, and I really in the past got caught into the system, didn't really get involved and look at the other opportunities around us that we can generate income and tell the government to shove it up their butt. And we're doing that more and more and more. And after a while, you start to look at things that you can do, anything at all, to generate income where you can keep that money away from these guys that are spending it on wars. And that just, it feels good when you can do that, because they're just, I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Okay, I went through my tax return 4 years ago. I generated $120,000 in my business. After all my expenses, gas, my health, blah, 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 I ended up $75,000. My net guideline for my taxes with my children at the time was $32,000. Left me an income base of about $43,000 excess. Out of that $43,000, I had to pay them $17,000 fucking dollars. And they base it on your generated base income, and they put you in a certain tax bracket. And I'm going like, you know, I'm working my butt off to make this extra money above my guideline. And at the end of the year, the government just takes like a good chunk of it, like 17 grand out of 42 it worked out to. And I'm going like, fuck, what am I working for? The government? And what do they spend it on? They just take it and they burn it like it's paper. It doesn't mean shit to them. It's not their money. If they ever tell you they care about your money, they're lying to you, because it's just a crock of shit. They spend it on their fucking trips and their fucking whatever they do. But they don't spend it on the people, man. And I'm kind of sick of it, and I'm making moves myself to get away from it. We all can do that. Just a few thoughts.
And the general, what you know, what's it like? Are there a lot of people, because Canada seems to be at the forefront, and I think over there, like the Crown is a foreign administration, isn't it? Because it's actually foreign to the UK landmass as well. It's a foreign administration, or I think they put us in the capacity of foreigners in order to tax us. But over there, I believe that there's a lot more energy to people wanting to sort of divest a bit and sort of go out and create something new, create something better than the government that you've got, you know, our sort of government that's infiltrated Canada.
Yeah.
Or
You know, that whole consensus of what you just said is really happening in Canada. A lot of ingenuity going on. I'm talking with some really cool people in Canada about ideas they've got and things they're doing. It's funny how you start meeting these people when you get on the internet and start doing shows like this. You meet one other person, they know 5 people, and then you go talk to him, and all these ideas are being thrown around. It's pretty cool. But I'm right along with what you said there, bro.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good to hear, like we get to talk to Dean Clifford and such like that, and people all over the world who are doing stuff, and it's brilliant. And I think Canada is definitely right up there with the most active at the moment in doing something alternative, and it's good to have you. I know you're a regular, and we love having you on. We do
enjoy
like
talking with you guys.
So I don't think you should hold back on that. I think you're holding back on the language too much. I think you should swear more, definitely.
I quite honest, I talk to a few other people now on a couple systems and shows and stuff, and been commenting, and I'm told never swear, Barry. And then I got on this show and I can really let it go, but sometimes it's hard. A lot of times I want to really rant. And you guys let me do that once in a while, and it really takes it off my chest, I'll tell you.
That's because they're all commercially. That's because they're commercial.
Exactly.
Commercial streams,
Exactly.
Barry.
Exactly.
We are the stream.
And I know, and I just love this station, man. You guys have got me listening for the rest of my life. That's a guaranteed. I mean, look at the people I've met through your station already. Honestly, the first time I ever listened to Rick Simpson was on your show, and he has made an incredible change in my life. And I know you're having the same effect on other people. I really do. So, and I know a lot of people here, boy, I'll tell you, it's really, people are telling me, a few people told me they've tuned into your station and listened, and they're really finding interest. And Hazel I had on the other day there, she says she wants to come back in and talk. And it's just getting people in and different ideas, and it's just really, really cool, brothers, and I love it. So thanks for having me on. Let me yap my face off here.
And I'll just throw a little bit.
I'll shut up for a minute.
When we're going to get on to our I think that, but thanks. I mean, if hopefully we'll get back to you again before the end, Barry, because I do enjoy hearing you talk. But I just, in advance of going on to our next subject, I know we got Nigel that wants to talk about council tax, and it. Pardon?
Just before we do, regarding business taxes, personal taxification, you pay tax in the country where you earn your money. If you're living in the UK and you're not an English resident, you pay tax to the United Kingdom if you're working for a business. However, if you're self-employed and your business is, say, registered in Australia, then any money that you earn here would be, for your business, would be paid to your Australian business. You'd have to pay tax on the income that you earn. Of course, when you're in Australia, if you're outside Australia with a business, then you're not eligible for income tax.
Right, okay.
You get that?
That makes sense. But I would add to that as well, is don't forget that income tax and tax is voluntary.
Well, your profit, you tax on your profit that you actually make in the country. You've actually, same as Boots the chemists have done, and as Orange, and quite a few of them do it. They're I suppose, like classics, I suppose, of the English high street. But they're not actually registered in the UK. They're actually registered outside the UK.
So they register outside the UK, and then Well,
you can have businesses all over the world, as long as you don't earn any money in the country where your business is registered, of course.
Ah, right, yeah.
Because then you'd be eligible for the tax.
Yeah. But even still, I would still say that tax, even if you're earning it in the country you're in, but the key word there was the resident, if you're a resident. And that's a bad word. Like, resident is one of the biggest trick words that they use. Resident does mean you hold office. The resident is one of the worst words that you never, ever want to agree or sign a form as a resident. You are a non-resident, because what you're claiming to be is a resident in the UK seas of commerce. If you understand, you're not like, I don't know if you've heard of that at all or anybody else has, but the UK sea of commerce is foreign to the landmass. So you've got the United Kingdom, the landmass, and then you've got the Sea of Commerce, which is above the land. So they put you into the capacity of a foreigner. You're foreign to the land mass, because I think it was it the Queen or the King? Only the Queen can't tax her. I forget the wording of it now. I should know this. No, the wording is only the foreigners shall be taxed. So they put you in the capacity of a foreigner, and the residency it's doing just that. It transfers you to a resident of the UK Seas of Commerce. So I don't know if anybody has had any experience of that, or Prajna, have you had it? You seem to study quite a lot. Have you come across that at all?
Sorry, say again. I was just distracted for a moment there. A resident of the UK. Well, actually, I'm a Kiwi. I'm actually a New Zealander, and I don't have a British passport. I came originally on a working holiday to the UK, and then got married. But in the time that I've been in the UK, all the immigration has changed quite a lot. I've kept my nose pretty much out of business, and whenever I've been in business, I've left all the gory money stuff to other people, and dealt with technical stuff, really.
Sorry to interrupt, Dave, but I think the question was about like me, for example. I was born in this country, and yet if I was to be invited to one of their courts, then I would actually say that I'm not a resident of the UK, because it puts you in their commercial sort of... Is that right, Dave? It puts you in the commercial jurisdiction. We might have lost call.
You still there, Dave?
Yeah. Sorry. I think on the forms and such, like with the income tax and things like that, they are, on the forms they ask you, are you a UK resident? And because of our schooling and the way that we're taught, and I should go into this in a bit more detail, really, where we know resident to mean one word, as in where we live, or our house is in the UK, therefore we must be a resident of the UK. But they are not referring to that in paperwork, banking paperwork, tax paperwork, council tax paperwork. They are not referring to you where you actually live. So you could what you could say to that is, I have domicile in so and so. I am a non-resident, because resident 100% means that you hold office within the UK Seas of Commerce, and that's therefore. Go on, sorry.
I don't know whether this is because freemen, lawful rebels, that kind of thing. They have great fun breaking words down and pointing out what the individual syllables mean. But they may be right about resident. Res, of course, is the trust property. When you create a trust, any property that you put into the trust is granted the trust. It's called the trust res. And sounds remarkably like identification, and so it would seem to me that describing yourself as a resident in those terms, and this may be stretching, I'm not saying this is the truth, but it seems to me that what you're admitting to when you say that you're a res-ident is that you're identifying yourself as property of some trust, probably the Crown Corporation or something like that.
That could well be. That's the only sort of that's the only description I've ever heard of it, really, with the resident, is that you hold, it is to hold office. But I mean, it could. I know that a lot of people do. I forget what it's called now when they start breaking down the words. There are a lot of people that specialise in that, aren't there? But I mean, I don't like to. What I don't like to do is overcomplicate it. If you keep it as simple as you can, then, and just always get down on the record that you are a non-resident. People, people who don't really know what's going on will look at you a bit stupid, like they look at you stupid when you say that you're not a mister. And I know Paul's favourite one is that he's reverend, and you know, you will get people that would look at you stupid. You will get people who will accuse you of being crazy. But like, the resident word is definitely a bad word. There's a lot of people now that have a belief that citizen or being a citizen is bad. I don't know if anybody there or anybody on the chat has had any experience of that, but there's still a bit of confusion about that one. But go on.
David, have you come across the term peaceful inhabitants? Because this is a term that a number of friends, I think Batman was one of the guys who came up with this term, and it's not just a frivolous term. In fact, the way that he came up with it was to look at the rules of war and so on. And as a peaceful inhabitant, you're a civilian. You have absolutely nothing to do with the combating parties and so on, and you're protected under international law. And peaceful inhabitant might actually be, you know, quite a reasonable way to describe yourself, rather than referring to yourself as a resident or even an occupier. An occupier, of course, the only legal definition of occupier is someone who's in a country for warlike purposes. So,
yeah, it's an adversarial term, isn't it? Occupy or occupier. Or...
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, when they were doing the Occupy movement, I guess they didn't kind of realise that was I don't know, maybe they did, that it was adversarial, but I've just seen in the chat, Sudama's just said that being a citizen is bad, and that, you know, they have, he said you should see the citizenship lessons that kids have to endure at school, and again, that's part of, you know, they get you into a belief of one thing, so you get to use a word without even thinking about it, and then when you actually find out what you are admitting to being with such words as resident, citizen, etc., you know, that's why people can't just expect to go into court with a magic phrase and stand there and have it work. And that's where there's so much misinformation that people are going in with the wrong arguments. They're getting shafted, and they're coming out, well, that's rubbish, that doesn't work. You know, people need to get off their asses, learn, you know, share information with each other like we do on here, you know. I'm by no means an expert, and I think, you know, speaking to like-minded people and speaking to people who have learned, you know, reading books, doing research, don't expect to spend 3 minutes watching one YouTube video and then go in and navigate your way through the court system, because they will undoubtedly, you know, the clerks, they're not stupid people, the clerks. They're pretty good at what they do, and they're pretty good at using coercion, and you will get shafted by them, and then all of a sudden you'll be going around telling people that you know that it's a load of rubbish, it doesn't work, it's a load of rubbish, you know. So, and like Prajna was just saying again, always rebut assumptions and presumptions. Always, always, always do that. Non-citizen, non-resident, rebut every single presumption and assumption that they're making. Let them know you are not willing to waive any deficiencies in their case. These are all spanners that get thrown in the works. But in order to do these things, you've got to know what you're saying. So, for an example, they will bring you into a courtroom assuming you are there in the capacity of the officer or the employee of the Crown, because they wrote a letter to the officer of the Crown. They spelt your name, identifying you as the officer, and you turned up. So you standing in their courtroom, okay? They've called the officer into this internal tribunal for the Crown Corporation. You've turned up. You stand there, name, date of birth, you give it over, general appearance. So now, any deficiency, any victimless crime, there's no victim. You've waived every single deficiency in your case and granted them jurisdiction, and all you've done is given them your name and date of birth. Well, you've just washed all your rights down the toilet. That's why you've got to learn what to do, who they're calling. When you get there, say, no, I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here in the capacity of a private individual. I'm here by way of special appearance. You can be in there in the capacity of a toilet cleaner if you want to be. I'm here in the capacity of a toilet cleaner, but I don't work for your organisation. Okay, no problems. Yeah. So always, like when you rebut every single presumption and assumption that they're making, you've made what you do by doing that. You're making them prove it up. So what they've got to do from that point, they've now got to trick you back into admitting to being the corporate agent who they wrote to in the first place. So it is difficult by the fact that you have to go into the courtroom in the first place to prove who you are, because in most cases they just ignore the letters. If you write to them and say, you've identified me as this, I'm not that, blah, blah, blah. So they will just ignore your letters. They won't put them on the court file until you're actually in the courtroom, despite whatever whatever hopes you've got about justice. The justice system is so far screwed up now on the magistrates court level, it's a joke. So by rebutting the presumptions and assumptions, you're making them have to prove who you are, what capacity you're there in. So now you've already made it difficult for them. Keep rebutting the presumptions that they're making. Keep saying on the public record, I am not here in that capacity. I've made it more than clear that I'm not here in that capacity. Have you got any? If you're claiming that I'm here in that capacity, have you got any evidence to prove that I was acting in that capacity at the time of the complaint? Have you got any evidence to prove that I've ever acted in that capacity? All of these things will throw spanners in the works, but I can tell you time and time again, there is no magic phrase. There's no one thing that you can say that's going to have them like running out of the room, and you need to learn about the what they're doing what they're doing to you, what they're identifying you as, and you need to sort of totally believe in what you're doing in there. Because if you just go in there and stand there and read off a few lines, and then they start asking you to prove it up or explain what you mean, and you can't, they're not going to be long before they've got you on the run, and by within seconds they'll trick you, and immediately they'll have jurisdiction, and a good shafting is what you will get. So I don't know. I would like to move on I know Nigel wanted to come on and speak there and explain a bit about what the council tax courts are doing now. And I have heard, because just before we go to speak to Nigel, with the council tax, what they were doing, they're actually issuing summonses at the local council level. If you start fighting council tax, it takes about 6 months for them to actually get to the position where they're going to they go for court proceedings. But what they actually do is they issue the summons themselves. The council issue the summons, which is unlawful. It's against the Ministry of Justice's regulations. So right off the bat, they start the process by breaking the law. Also, I just want to say, I've got it in writing from our local council that not paying council tax in the first instance is not a criminal offence. It's not a criminal matter. The only time it becomes criminal is when you refuse to identify yourself, or you refuse to obey a court order. But what they're doing, the next way that they generate money is that they may go to court on one day, for one, maybe the hearing will take 10 minutes, but they can actually hear up to sort of 800 or 2,000 cases, all under one liability order, all under one sitting. But what they then do is they charge each individual case that was heard in that sitting, they charge them 50 quid per person. So it's 800 times 50 quid. I don't know who's quick at maths, but you can work it out for yourselves that it's an awful lot of money for 10 minutes work. And I think that, Nigel, you were saying that they actually had a lot of people. Yes, there you go, 4,000. I thought you'd be first to that. But Nigel was saying they actually had people queued outside the courtroom, and they were giving them little tickets, and it wasn't even a proper court hearing. So I don't know if Nigel's ready to come on and speak and tell us about that.
I'm ready. I'll just start from the beginning, really. This is in the context, really, of people who were on benefits from the 1st of April, following the welfare reform legislation, they'd become liable for council tax. Up until 1st of April this year, they were getting a full council tax rebate generally. Certainly the majority of them would, or a partial rebate, depending on their income. Now, that legislation that all came into effect from the 1st of April. So I was surprised to be informed by a friend of mine, Bones, that he'd received a summons to attend magistrates' court for non-payment of council tax. That would be yesterday, Wednesday the 29th. Now, at the time that the notice was sent out, he would only have been 1 month in arrears, because he'd only become liable from the 1st of April. Now, when we got there, at the main entrance to the court, it said that there were special hearings in courts 8 and 9. So we went, it was a separate entrance. Outside, there was a long queue of people. And they were just waiting to get into the building. Now, what was happening when they went into the building was that they were then given a ticket, from one of these ticket dispensers, and told to go and sit down and wait until their number was called. So you've got all these people waiting outside, you've got all these people waiting inside, and you're quite right, the notices were issued by the council. This is something that I believe is unlawful. I'd had previous experiences of this with Paul. I think Paul, you were issued a notice by the council. I believe this is unlawful, but I also think that this goes further, because when people were actually called for the interview, and that's all it was, an interview, not a hearing. There were no justices of the peace present, no court officers present. They just had an interview with a council officer who took their personal details and said, okay, you're going to be charged £75 for this court attendance, and we'll contact you about making arrangements to pay the full amount of your council tax, because you haven't paid made any payments so far. We now want the full amount of your council tax plus £75. Now, in the context that it happened, all of these people who were there were clearly on benefits. Many of them were on sickness benefits. There were people who were clearly too ill to actually be there. There was a lady actually stood there carrying a portable defibrillator, with tubes up her, nose, so she could actually breathe. And I question really the legality of this hearing, if they weren't actually getting a hearing with a justice of the peace, or some other kind of legal officer. On an ethical level, I think the council, which is actually a Labour council, supposedly they claim they're actually, for the people and fighting against the evil Conservative, Liberal Democrat coalition's welfare reforms, but here they are. They're actually causing more distress, and people who were there were distressed, and lots of those who probably didn't attend would have been even more distressed, put into fear by the summons that they received after just not paying for 1 month. And so I'm really looking to see if I can get any thoughts from yourself, Dave or anybody else about the legality of what happened. There are more hearings of this type planned. There's going to be, I'm aware that they're going to be held every Wednesday at least. Other people have received notices to attend on subsequent Wednesdays. So I am going to be fighting this. We will be having people demonstrating outside the hearings and trying to advise people as best we can. So any thoughts?
Well, my first thought is I'd love to come up and help advise the people. If I could, if you can sort of give Paul some dates and stuff when these hearings are going to happen, I'd love to come up there. For a start, it's misrepresentation because they're sending you an invitation to come to court. The way the old council tax used to work was when you got into the courtroom, although you had 3 magistrates there, they weren't even there in the really, I suppose, the capacity of a magistrate. They were there just acting, really, or trying to give the implication that it was a genuine hearing. And I said on the show before, there are people that I've helped where the liability orders have been actually issued prior to the court date, although you're actually going to court to discuss liability, and then you see that in some cases they're like issued 3 days before the hearing even takes place. So right from the get-go, from the moment you get a summons from the council pretending that it's from the court, that is unlawful by the Ministry of Justice's own rules. So that's the first sort of thing I can say. If you're then going in expecting to go into a fair hearing, you're not getting a hearing. Therefore, any result of that hearing should be void. I don't see how that could ever stand up, because in the instance where you go into a room with magistrates, that's void anyway. That couldn't. The next process you see after they do that, just for everybody else, I know Prajna wants to add in a second. I'll bring you in a second, Prajna. The next process that they do then is they'll attempt to collect the money, not for very long, maybe a month or so, and then they'll issue. They'll give the case to the bailiffs, and there's a massive business in council tax, bailiffs, and such like. So I just want to give everybody a little a little present here. This is the personal mobile phone number of the chief executive for XL Bailiffs, and I think they cover like Liverpool, and they are a Liverpool-based company, but they're really horrible bastards. Ring him up. Tell him you're going to file a civil claim against him for being unlawful. When the council goes to I will get back onto the court part, but when they pass it to a bailiff, number one, the bailiff's got a duty of protection to you. Okay, so he should check that a proper procedure has taken place. He should check that Justice of the Peace signed the liability order, and that a court stamped the liability order, and that the Justice of the Peace was under his oath when he gave the liability order. So there's a lot of ways you can tackle a bailiff firms, and if they're acting outside of the law, you can definitely go after them. And they have to they put a bond down of £10,000 to be a bailiff, okay? And you can lien their bonds, you can go after them on a personal level. But if anybody would like to ring up and have a quiet chat with the chief executive or the main head honcho at XL, and it's his company. This is his personal mobile phone number. This is going all around the world. Barry, write it down. Get the parrot on him. It's 07712 938 046, and that's 07712 938 046. So maybe a few hundred people or whatever ringing him up and telling him they're going to file a civil claim, because how I got his number was I contacted him through Dun & Bradstreet, and I told him that I was going to put a civil claim on him if he continued to harass me. And the guy was nearly in tears on the phone because he'd just spent £4,000 fighting somebody They actually lost the case against him, but it still cost him £4,000. So imagine if 1,000 people were to challenge a bailiff firm, and they had to spend £40,000 in lawyers' fees defending themselves. Well, do you think people would be so keen to be bailiffs then? You know, it's not hard. It's not hard to fight these people. You've just got to get off your lazy asses and fight the people. And this is not directed at anybody. Anybody that wants to do something about it, they can only do something about it themselves. You know, you've got to learn your stuff. It's like, you know, we know that the court cases are unlawful. We absolutely know that for a fact. But let's just say everybody, you know, in one area, like Manchester or something, flat refused to pay council tax for a year. Like, what sort of a position would you put that local council in financially? You'd put them in a very, very difficult position. You know, and I think, Prajna, do you want to come in and add to that there for a sec?
Yeah, I got some words to say on council tax. There's another way on council tax, and that is that the Local Government Act of 2003 has a lovely little section in there called Section 13A, and it says a billing authority's power to reduce the amount of tax payable. 1. Where a person is liable to pay council tax in respect of a chargeable dwelling, and any day the billing authority for the area in which the dwelling is situated may reduce the amount which he is liable to pay as respects the dwelling and the day to such extent as he thinks fit. Now, that means there's a requirement in law that the councils should be able to, should have to hear any application that you have for a discount on your council tax. Now, the government, local government, whatever, your council will argue that they have blanket reductions or they don't have reductions or whatever, but actually they're required under law to give you a hearing. And if they don't, they've broken the law. Now, it's a fabulous post on this article, on this whole subject, on fmotl.com. I can post you a link to the subject itself, but you know, being one of these forum links, it's quite a complicated one and not one that's easy to read out. But I'll paste it into the chat, and anyone who likes can go to that. It's been studied. There's a whole great big long letter there by John Hurst, who's done a great deal of research into it. It's beautifully well argued. And
hey, John Hurst.
John Hurst, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know him. He's a really good guy.
Right. So I'll post that into the text. It's a thread called Council Tax Defence on fmotl.com. But I'll post the actual link into chat for people.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Can you send it across on the Facebook to me as well? So I've got it.
I'll paste it into Skype chat as well.
I'll stick it on your Facebook, Dave.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yeah. I don't know why Barry isn't on the Facebook yet. I think Barry should get on the Facebook. And
he is on Facebook.
Oh, he's not my friend yet.
No, that's it. He's not my friend neither. He just comes to pick on.
I don't know where to look for you guys.
But Paul, didn't I hear that you'd had some good experiences with the council tax stuff?
Well, they charged me £75 for having a hearing that never existed. I actually went in with Nigel, and we do have it on video. I've got that on video. The woman previously worked for quite a famous man, Adolf. She was the head of the Third Reich, and she was insisting that we were being insulting to her council. Her company, the company she works for. Me and Nigel tried to explain to her that she actually worked for us, and she was our servant, but she really didn't like it. Of course, you don't get to speak to the mythical men and women behind the secret curtain in the council offices. It was like a two-way telephone conversation where she spoke to someone on the phone and then But I don't think there is anybody on the phone. I think they just pretend there's somebody on the phone. Oh no, we can't make any decisions. Not until Mary comes back from the lavatory. It's bollocks, you know. So they got very upset with me. They got very angry at me. They insisted that I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And then they decided that they were all wrong, miraculously. And then I got a letter through the door saying I am now exempt. The property I live in is now exempt from tax. I'm not quite sure how that happened. I did actually ring them up and say, well, can I have my benefits then? And they probably slammed the phone down and wouldn't speak to me. So I haven't got any further with that. Well, yeah, I am now exempt from tax. One little point, Dave, I did want to bring up about ministers and titles, Mr. and Mrs. I have posted a link. I can do it again. It's for an organisation called the Universal Life Church. Basically, the law states that if you are to be your title, in my case, it was Reverend. Your title needs to be lodged and stored, and you need to be ordained into a church, and it must be recorded by that church. Otherwise, it's fake, of course. And those are what are needed. So, the Universal Life Church will register you as a minister of God's Word, as they say that everyone has the right to speak the Word of God through the rights of birth. That you're all God's children, and you all have the right to speak His Word. So they will do that for you free of charge. You can contact them by email, and they will ordain you as being a minister into their church completely free of charge. You will have given your name and the date where you were ordained, and that they can then cross-reference their records if people question it. But what I did want to tell you, if you look at the Universal Life Churches and you go down to special titles, I'm not going to go through them all, but these are some of the titles you can actually get instead of Mr. or Mrs. Then you could be abbot, you could be an angel, you could be an archangel or an archbishop even, an arch ministry, you could be a Buddhist or a brother or a Brahmin or a bishop, you could be a chief or a chaplain or a cleric, a colonel, a deacon, quite like deacon, you could be a director or a druid, or an elder. So many. Guru even. I can think of a few people I might get a guru. There's quite a few. But the one I think I might go for, just scooting down the list, because there are many, sage, saint. You can be saint. I could be Saint Paul. The Baden family. But the one I think I might actually pay $10. This cost me $10 to get this, to have my title registered with the church and make it official is wizard. I just think when they say to me, is it Mr. or Mrs.? I want to go, wizard. Actually, I want to be a wizard. Can you imagine? So yeah, to me, although you can do this, and this is real, I mean, you can do it. You can become a real wizard instead of being Mr. And it is completely legal. The point I'm trying to make, Swami. You can be a Swami as well if you want. The point, or a shaman, or even a rabbi. Anyway, I'm a prophet. Wow, you can be a prophet. Does this actually mean that you're automatically paid money by the government because you're now in profit? Oh, excuse me, that was a bit cheesy, wasn't it? But the point I'm trying to make here is the preposterous nature of the so-called title. It really doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. So yeah. And of course there are degrees. One of my favourite degrees you can actually get, or a doctorate, is in metaphysiology. Metaphysiology is you should all have it. And I've got my master's degree in metaphysiology, which is actually the perception of life through one's own eyes. It's from one's own experience. To study the perception of life through one's own experience. So I'd just like to point out that you're all actually doctors of metaphysiology, because no one else can study it through your eyes. I would use it as a bit of fun. I did do it as a little bit of fun. Yeah, so far I've paid no parking tickets. I've paid no speeding fines, no poll tax. They don't seem to want anything of me, because of course, as far as the official people are concerned, I'm a minister of God, and they don't want to fuck with God. No. Don't know why.
No, isn't that a great example of using the person to your advantage, of using what you're acting in the capacity of? It's a brilliant example of that. Just because you're right, they presume that you are something, it doesn't mean you have to rock up and admit to their presumption. You can be whatever you choose to be, and like you say, if you can have some fun. I mean, that sounds like so much fun to me, and it just I might have to think of a title for Matt tomorrow. But it's brilliant.
You can get parking passes, minister on call, and you can get everything. You can get everything. You can even get yourself the vestry and all the stuff. So you can.
And what was that? Just repeat what the name of it was, Paul. The place that you go for that.
A real simple one. It's www.ulc.net.
Right. Okay. I got that.
I'm in the shop. I'm shopping.
You are.
Yes, I'm shopping.
This is Nigel. I'd just like to come back to you on the council tax hearings.
Yeah.
I definitely know that there will be another hearing on June the 12th. And at that hearing, one of the people who's going to be, has been summoned is a colleague of mine, a comrade, Star-Lord, and he is going to insist on having a hearing with a magistrate, which I think if he's been sent a summons, that is his right.
Well,
yeah, because they're
he is actually called Star-Lord, Dave. He's changed his name by Deepole to Star-Lord.
That is brilliant.
It should be quite funny anyway.
So
yeah, I would love to come up for that. If you can, you just keep reminding me, because with dates I am useless, but just keep reminding me and I will make sure I come up to that. But he should, the 12th, you should be able to get, you should have the right to a fair hearing. Everybody's got the right to a fair hearing. Everybody's got the right to know who their accuser is.
Yeah, so
it won't be a fair hearing at all, but surely then, if you're just going to go in and see a council official, you should be able to take somebody with you to help with that.
Yeah.
Or are they going to claim that, oh no, this is a court, you can't do that, you have to represent yourself or have representation. I'd love to see the way that works, and I'd love to stand out in the street and start teaching people. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, that would be good. So it is the 12th of June. It will be at Ashton-under-Lyne Magistrates Court. I'll put up the details on the Facebook site. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be brilliant, and I'd love to come to that. Anyway, it'd be a good experience for sure.
And that's the court, Dave. That's the court where they go off their head completely if you don't stand up, right?
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, got a pit bull terrier.
Rajna, you need to get up there as well by the sound of it.
No, don't let... That'll be a national incident. They call in the armed squad, I'm telling you. Man wearing a hat in the court in Ashton. Never.
Man in hat comes...
No, Dave, people here in Ashton, right, they used to have to walk... When they walk past where the court is now, it used to be Hugh Mason's house, right? They had to take the clogs off, okay, and the hat, roll the caps up, seriously, and take the clogs off in the snow when they walk past his house because he didn't want to get disturbed by their footwear. These are the people we're dealing with up here, Dave, I'm telling you. As Chris Sparky said, Ashton-under-Lyne is where the rubber meets the road.
I will look forward to that. Matt will definitely be in on that for certain, and my son will probably come up as well because he thinks it's hilarious as well now, He went through a stage of thinking it was really uncool, and now he just thinks it's the funniest thing, so it'll be good.
It is a great day out as well. It's a great day out when you go out to these things. You meet people, you get to chat with people, and, the number of people who are are being persecuted by these systems. You're going to meet who have got no idea they've got any kind of rights at all. I mean, I don't think we should fight for your rights. You know, slaves fight for rights. But we should stand up for what's right. You know, what you feel right in your heart. And I'll tell you, if you are feeling a bit down and a bit miserable, get out on a day. It's a good day out. I mean, demonstrations, organised demonstrations, don't make an iota of difference. I mean, you know, we're going demonstrate.
I agree.
For the people. We're organising the demonstrations with the people we're actually demonstrating against. It's like, what? But it's a great day out. It really is. Go down, you meet people, you know what I mean? Have a bit of a laugh and a joke. I personally, every demonstration I've been to over the last couple of years, and it's not been that many, I always go and demonstrate against people demonstrating. I think people should demonstrate against demonstrations. Everyone should demonstrate against every demonstration, personally, because I just love the irony of the situation. On the last council tax march in Manchester, we stood at the side of the road shouting, "Fuck the government, grow skunk." They didn't really like it. And then we wouldn't demonstrate in an orderly fashion. And they got right upset. They said we were disrupting their demonstration because we weren't demonstrating in the correct manner. I have never had such a laugh. It was brilliant. And then, lo and behold, I guess actually, I've got a woman who's a demonstrator, you know, and somebody's given her a high-vis jacket, and she's just turned into one of the Third Reich, and she starts to kind of get really aggressive with me, and you know, for that moment, I was like, it was a real what the moment, do you know what's going on here? And two other burly guys came over, and they were starting to get a little bit, and you'll never guess who appeared and started shouting at them, "Independent journalist! Independent journalist! What are you doing? What are you doing?" And immediately this man came out. There's a bit of a clue from you. Immediately this man opened up. They ran away. They ran away from him. They just left me alone and ran away. Yeah. So that was my little excursion out. And yeah, I'll go to some more. And they're great fun. They're great fun. But I'm not under any illusion it's going to make the iota a bit of a difference to the cause that they're marching about. Not unless we demonstrate millions of people turning up. That's what you need. Like the poll tax marches. They stopped the poll tax. They changed it to the council tax, and now we're all getting it anyway. So hey, even then, with the massive amounts of numbers that turned out onto the streets, then it didn't make any difference. They did it anyway. We're now fighting against it being done to the poorest people. So.
Yeah, it does, and it does seem like it is terrible that the poorest people seem to be the ones who are the most victimised at the moment, and like the look on their face, like they've just given up all hope. It's. I know I can help people like that. I absolutely know I can help them, because you've only just got to teach them that, hey, you know, this isn't really as bad as you think it is if you know how to stand up and sort of stick up for what you believe in, really, you know. And like if you say with the amount of people that were marching with the poll tax, yeah, you know, that would be great, but it would be even better if all of those people that were marching simply just did not give money to that system. The bailiff firms are the absolute scum of society. They are unbelievable scum. And I was saying last night on the Darkcity that I had a bailiff there the other day, and as soon as I started to ask him about his duty of protection, then he just said, look, he said, I've come across, people like you before. He said, I don't want to know. He said, I'm just going back to the office. He said, I'm only here because today is the last day. It expires and blah, 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 blah. And I said, all you're going to do is get yourself into trouble. I said, I'm telling you now, this is not going to end well for you. It's going to cost you money. And he just, like, I ended up having quite a long conversation with him, and he was taking stuff on board. He actually said he was going to listen to the show as well. So if you are listening, hello, Mr. Baylor. But really, they're not educated. He said he does, a 2-week training course, and I guess that you can't expect them to, be educated to the fact that what they're doing is is wrong. But they do have a due diligence, and ignorance of the law is no excuse. So we're down to 1 minute 15 seconds, or 1 minute. So I don't know if anybody, Barry, do you want to jump in before we go, or anybody else?
Just a last comment, guys. Enjoyed your show, of course, and every day I listen to the show, I learn something new. Over here in Canada, you don't really hear what's going on inside the governments of the UK and how bad you guys are being persecuted. And it's really hard for me to grasp because we don't put up with it quite yet at that point in this country. But I can see it creeping in. So, great show, guys. Thanks for letting me make a few comments.
Well, once again, thank Barry, thanks to Prajna and everybody else who's contributed, and Sudama for doing the job with the server, or everybody involved. It's just brilliant to have this show. So thanks once again, and I'll see you next week. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
This is a public health announcement. Cannabis cures cancer.